Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com. Welcome to Home and Heart Radio with Mary Goulet, presented by VinVillage.com.
Welcome to the program. Yes, Mary Goulet, your host of Home and Heart. And today my guest is Frank Ford. He's one of the founders of 4-Day Weekend Comedy and the author of the national bestseller, Happy Accidents, The Transformative Power of Yes and at Work and in Life. Welcome, Frank.
Oh, thank you so much, Mary. A pleasure to be a guest on your show. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, so we have a lot to cover because I want the history of, I'm assuming 4-Day Weekend Comedy came before the book.
It did, yeah. We started the comedy group in 1997, and the book came out at the end of last year. So, yes, it started long before the book came out.
Okay, so what was the genesis of the 4-Day Weekend Comedy?
Well, we were a bunch of friends that were doing stand-up at the time, and we discovered improv in 1997. Now, for your listeners, in 1997, stand-up was still king. It really still is. And improvisation was the redheaded stepchild of comedy, so to speak, right? So the American version of Whose Line Is It Anyway had not hit American television sets. So a lot of people were still uninformed about exactly what improv is. They heard things about the SNL cast, and they came out of the Second City, and then there was one in Toronto, and that was SCTV. And so they heard about it, but really didn't know what it was all about as a craft or an art form. And once we discovered it in 1997, we just fell in love with it because, unlike stand-up, where you're a monologist and working alone, improv lends itself to teamwork, collaboration, and working together. And that really was in our wheelhouse. We realized that we wanted to perform as a group versus individually so that we could write sketches and perform shows. So that really was the genesis for it, or the impetus for us, was discovering improvisation. And a few of us had gone up to the conservatory in Chicago, studied at the Second City there. And once we came back, we decided, there's nothing in town like what we want to do. So why don't we get together and do our own show? So we were inspired by the Second City in Chicago, and then that's what started 4-Day Weekend in 1997.
Okay, so how'd you come up with the name 4-Day Weekend?
Now, I'm going to share with you a secret of ours. We normally don't talk about this. It's funny that you asked. The 4-Day Weekend was an homage to a Simpsons episode. We're huge fans of The Simpsons.
Oh, brother.
And we're trying to come up with a name, and there was an episode where Homer wanted to take a Friday off, and I believe it was Mr. Burns who said, Homer, if you don't come into work on Friday, don't bother coming in on Monday, meaning he was fired. But, of course, Homer being Homer said, woo, 4-Day Weekend, thinking, wow, he got an extra day of vacation. So as an homage to The Simpsons, we thought, 4-Day Weekend. It sounds fun. It sounds like an extended vacation. Let's go with that. We like that name. So that's where 4-Day Weekend came from.
That's funny. Of course, guys would always go to a Simpson episode.
I think everything funny that a guy references, in some way, it's 6 degrees, or maybe it's 2 degrees of separation from The Simpsons.
Seriously. Okay, so I want to talk about both because I went to L.A. I live in San Diego now, but I used to live in L.A., and I tried a stand-up comedy class. I was horrible. I'm only funny when I don't think I'm funny. But I can't, try to be clever. And
well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so when you compared the two, stand-up comedy to improv, I think improv would be a more useful skill to learn because you can apply it to so much in your daily life.
Well, that is what we have found. And we've had a lot of stand-ups who've gone on to do great things as stand-ups. Like Cristela Alonzo is a former student of ours. She lives in Los Angeles. She was just the voice of one of the characters in Cars 3. She had her own show on ABC. Cristela and she's done a ton of stuff. And it's funny because the stand-ups, like Christella, have said, taking improv classes helped my stand-up, but my stand-up did not help my improv. And and it's true because, as a stand-up, you're up there and you're doing your own thing. It's just you. But there are applications from improvisation that you can apply to stand-up. And that's what we had found. We found that, boy, there's a lot of life lessons, philosophies, and things that having to do with active listening, being present, being open-minded, saying yes and to things, collaborating, working together, that come out of improvisation that work just as well off stage with your business or interpersonal relationships as they do in teams on stage. So we found a lot more applications as far as learning improvisation goes. So it was suited to us. So what you're saying is, you would probably do really, really well in an improv class with a bunch of people working and collaborating, I'm guessing.
Well, I do love the Drew Carey show. Whose line is it anyway?
That's right.
They're hilarious. They just, they're so quick. They're so fast, and they laugh. They have so much fun doing it.
Well, you know what's funny? That's an interesting thing that you're bringing up, too. And we talk about this, especially with our corporate clients. We always talk about, like, a sense of play, like you have a sense of play. We're all friends, in 4-Day Weekend. We're friends on stage and off stage. So we hang out together. And, I think I saw this on a motivational poster somewhere, but we get to go to work. We don't have to go to work. I can't remember where I heard that. But it really is that. We get to go to work because we have a sense of play and it's a lot of fun. And if you can incorporate a sense of play into your daily life, whether it's at work or with family or with friends, you're going to be much better off as a human being, just in general.
So explain to me, it seems like this thing has evolved. You did your show, then you also teach classes for people?
Yeah.
And then you went into the corporate realm.
Yes, it sort of followed that evolution. That's right. So we started this show, and it's funny because this is how Yes and works. We started the show in 1997, and we were doing a show in a 100-seat theater, and then after a year, we had grown out of that, moved to a much bigger theater, and somewhere along the way, someone said to us, "Hey, do you guys teach improv classes?" Well, at the time, we had just started. We were a year in. We had not set up a training center, but we're Yes and guys. So we said, yes, and check our website, and we'll have classes up. So of course we had to run off and learn HTML real quick. Like, oh my God, we got to get a class in here. But we're Yes and guys. So that was we yes-ended people's request for classes and then started a training center. And then somewhere along the way, at one of our shows, a guy came up to us and said, "Hey, have you guys ever done or thought about doing corporate entertainment?" We're like, corporate entertainment? What? No, what do you mean corporate entertainment? Well, we're Yes and guys. So we said, sure, yes, and we'd love to do yours. We'd love it. And that kind of attitude is how we started booking corporate gigs and then teaching classes at the training center. Now we have 2 theaters, one in Dallas and Fort Worth, and we have training centers in both. We do corporate entertainment all over the United States, all throughout the world, actually. And so those were stepping stones that ultimately led us, after years and years of doing that, to the keynote, because a lot of people at the show or at our keynote said, "Man, this is a really great message. You guys should think about figuring out a way to get this to more people. Have you thought about writing a book or something? I mean, this is great because we're here and we get to do it with you, but other people might be interested in this." And that's when we said, yes, and I think we'll start looking for a publisher soon. So it's always the yes and that got us to the next thing, whether it was the training center, corporate clientele, or the book, or the second theater that we just opened earlier this month. Everything is born out of yes and. We're yes and guys. So nothing is out of the realm of possibility.
Okay,
but yes, you're right. That is how it was staggered.
Okay. So let's go back for those who may not understand, because I've read most of your book, Happy Accidents.
Okay.
The yes and, so yes, comma, and.
Yes.
Means that in improv, if somebody says something and your response could be yes and, it could take you off into a whole new direction, and that's what creates a tapestry of the improv setting in a way?
That's exactly right. Look, the world, our world, or people, we default to no for the most part. But in improv, you don't have that luxury. You know, saying no to things gives you the illusion of control, and it closes the door to all possibilities. Saying yes means, well, I have to relinquish some control, but it opens the door to all kinds of possibilities. And when you're on stage, as you've seen on Whose Line Is It Anyway, or for your listeners who've seen an improv show, if somebody yells a suggestion out in a show, you don't have time to sit there and go, nah. We did something about a cow last week. Something else, everybody. You don't pick and choose. What you do is whatever is said, whatever the idea is, you're trained to immediately accept the idea. That's the yes part. And then the comma, the A-N-D, the and is building on the idea. You're adding to it. You don't have time to judge. And what that does, it conditions you to be present, be in the moment, be accepting of any and all ideas, and then build on any and all ideas. Now, in life, of course, you have to say no. We just ask that people make sure it's a considerate no. But improv on stage, when you yes and something that sounds like the craziest, weirdest thing, it usually ends up being the best out of left field, out of the box idea and or scene that you've ever heard of, because you would have never come up with it by yourself. You may have shot it down. And if you had shot it down as a group, you would have never explored it. So yes, a lot of that stuff, yes and is the foundation of all improvisation. And for us, we decided as our business was growing, oh my gosh, we need a business philosophy. We're not business majors. What should we do? Well, we just realized, this works really well on stage. I wonder if this would work really well off stage, like if we applied it to our business and our interpersonal relationships. And guess what? Yes, of course it does. Yes.
But you know what? When someone is first exposed to it, it brings up like fear, maybe some insecurity. What if I make a mistake? Yes. What if I embarrass myself? You know, so
yes, and those are all. Well, here's the thing. Yes, of course, a lot of the decisions that we make are fear-based and born out of insecurity. In our world, this kind of gives us wiggle room. There are no right or wrong answers in our world. There are only higher and lower percentage choices, right? So you know that no matter what, even if it's a low percentage choice, I'm never going to make you look stupid on stage. You know, 4-Day Weekend, we take the stage in a very unselfish way. It's my job to make you, Mary, look good, and it's your job, Mary, to make me look good. Right. Well, if you take the stage with that in mind, then guess what happens? We all look good, versus a very selfish Machiavellian approach, which is, hey, I'm going to undermine Mary and make her look really stupid on stage to get a quick hit laugh. Well, what does that do to our show, making you look dumb, or vice versa, you making me look dumb? It only undermines our credibility with the audience overall. So why would you do that? And the thing is that, yes, a lot of people are afraid of a lot of different things in this world and in life. But the thing about working as a group that is making each other look good is that you develop trust. And when you develop trust in a group, you are taking things on as a group in a very confident way. You don't let fear dictate your choices. I mean, you know, if you're living a fearful life, I guess you're surviving, but you're not thriving in this life. You're just playing it safe and never. And we always say that in improvisation, because we're always stepping into the unknown. In improv, you only know where you've been. You never know where you're going. It's all about the leap. Life is all about the leap. It's not about the landing, Mary. You're going to land somewhere. But if you're so afraid to make the leap ever in this life, well, what are you doing? You're playing the prevent defense of life, basically. So what do you think is going to happen? Are you going to live a mediocre life? Probably. You know, I mean, do you expect, to live this really exceptional, wonderful, grand life playing the prevent defense of life? Come on, no.
Okay, so when
it doesn't work that way.
When you take this to business, it comes to mind it's ideal for team building.
Yes.
Among executives or managers, workers, whatever, that if they can have that basis of trust, and they're like, oh boy, here we go. We're going to have to do something out of our comfort zone. And then you have to, figure out a way to hold the space for these people that some may not even like each other. And some may, or there's power struggles and all sorts of stuff. So is there a way for you to break down some of those barriers and get them right into the fun part of doing this and the possibilities of yes and?
Yes. Well, it's easier for us because we're a comedy group. And guess what? Humor is a great tool to break people down, right? We always say that humor is the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down, right? So yes, when you're using humor with a group, we have had so many groups, whether, say it was sales and operations within a company that were fighting each other, or it was a merger of two big companies, which we've done before. When we get them into of course, there's always going to be people there that, or their arms are crossed, and they come in as a no-but person, right? But they leave a yes-and person because over time, we use humor, and it's fun, and our workshops and keynotes are interactive, and we get everybody up. We do exercises, and they're fun, and people get into it. I mean, even the most staunch, diehard, no-but person, arms crossed, scowl on the face, by the end of it, they're having a good time. And what happens over the course of that keynote is that people kind of look at themselves and are able to laugh and go, you know what? Yeah, okay, we do that. We probably need to get better at that. So humor is a great tool for breaking down defenses and sort of getting to people and having them open up their minds to the yes-and philosophy. Plus, it's a lot of fun.
Wow. It sounds great. And it sounds like if people can get over themselves and what they perceive to be like, I need to protect myself and stay under the radar, if they can get over themselves and just try it. Did you ever see that movie with Jim Carrey? I think it was Yes Man or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Where all he could do, he could only say yes
to everything.
That is a hyperbolic, exaggerated example, but that is kind of what we're suggesting people do. Again, most people's default is no, right? And a lot of the things that keep them from, like you said, getting over yourself. Well, what is that? Well, that's fear, that's insecurity, and most importantly, it's ego. And one of the things we talk about, because, you break down your ego in a group, right? You kind of collaborate. It's not your idea, it's our idea. So we talk about in our book, this going from ego to we go. We go somewhere, not ego, not you. We go somewhere. And so, yeah, it's funny because a lot of people, if they just would say yes to, 3 things in a week that they normally wouldn't say yes to, it is surprising and shocking what that leads to. Again, no gives you the illusion of control, right? But yes, you have to give up control, but it opens the door to all kinds of possibilities. And when people try it, they realize, God, I've been living a no-but life for a long time. And it's true because, we get rewarded for negativity and saying no, and especially the higher up the food chain you go in a company. Some of these exercises, they're the hardest to do when we work with Fortune 500 CEOs because they get paid well to say no. But they also realize, geez, maybe I'm just saying no. It's a reactionary no. Like I'm not even thinking about it anymore. Maybe I should try some of this yes and stuff. So I think it's a really good tool for opening up people's minds. But it takes a while because there's decades of programming and conditioning to say no that we have to work with people. So it's like going to the gym. I'm sure you had a New Year's resolution, new year, new me. You don't go to the gym one day and go, yep, did it, in shape, woo. Nope. You have to go back. You go to the gym, you keep working out. That's the same thing with the yes-and philosophy, especially if you don't do it regularly, is that you got to practice it. You got to incorporate it into your life or your corporate culture. For real. You can't give it lip service. You really got to do it. So sometimes we have to do tune-up keynotes with companies to kind of keep them on the right track, meet with them again throughout the year. But by and large, people gravitate towards it because that is really how we're hardwired honestly, as human beings, we're hardwired to be yes and people, to help each other out, to be empathetic, to collaborate. That's how we're hardwired. This no-but Machiavellian dog-eat-dog, stab each other in the back, undermine whoever you need to undermine, and step on whoever you need to step on to climb the corporate ladder. That's programming. That is programming. That is not who you are, really. That is who you were programmed to be. Who you really are, how you're hardwired, is more in line with the yes-and philosophy, for sure.
Wow. Well, and also with how busy our lives are with technology, which I think streamlines some things, but overall distracts us and makes us shut down socially from other people unless we're texting them.
Yeah, well, when you have former Facebook executives coming out and saying that Facebook is destroying the very fabric of our culture and our lives, then, there's probably things we need to learn regarding social media that we haven't picked up yet. And it's because the technology has come so hot and fast at us that we haven't had time to catch up with how to use it yet. Everything is happening so quickly that we, as a species, the human race, is like, whoa. We're still trying to acclimate to all of this social media stuff. And it just takes time, that's all.
Okay, so what advice do you have for entrepreneurs? I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. For reading Happy Accidents, The Transformative Power of Yes and at Work and in Life. I can see how it can help becoming more courageous in business and maybe getting along better, being helpful for the culture. But I really see huge benefits for interpersonal relationships as well, and maybe in getting customers for your business.
Yes, yeah. It's funny because it certainly helps out with interpersonal relationships. It's funny because we wrote, the book is a business book, but we have been invited to sort of wellness conferences where we speak, and there'll be psychiatrists and psychologists there that are speaking, and then we're there, and we've had, for instance, couples. They heard our Yes and keynote and said, "Hey, maybe we should try that together." There was one married couple in particular said, "Yeah, my husband was watching, the keynote, and I happened to step in and listen to it a little bit, and then we decided to do the yes and it really kind of helped our marriage." And it's just because when you're practicing yes and with an improv group, with a couple, with your family, with clients, yes and sort of lends itself to being heard. A lot of people want to be heard. They just want to be heard, and they're not heard. In a lot of cultures, the loudmouth, the know-it-all, the squeaky wheel, these people, the extrovert, get the most attention. But what happens is you drown out all of these other voices that may not be as extroverted, but have great ideas. And trust me, we have had, employees within 4-day weekend who are not in the show, who come to us with ideas from these crazy out of left field places. And we're just like, oh my God, that's a great idea. Wow, thank you for showing. Yeah, great. And they would never approach us with those ideas if they didn't think that they were going to be heard. And improv or yes and lends itself to being heard. And I think that's why people gravitate towards it so much. And they really do want their corporate culture or their home life or the way they communicate with their friends or family to be sort of a yes and way of communicating. It's just, and it's just open to all ideas. And I think that's why we're getting such a positive response towards it. Because, look, text messaging is great in some respects. So is email. Again, even Facebook to get information out there on some level. But you're talking about the face-to-face, the human contact, the interaction of us being with each other, being present, being heard, listening to each other. There's no replacement for that. There's always going to be pen and paper, a pencil and paper. No matter how great the technology gets, someone's going to want to grab a pencil and write something down. Well, nothing's going to replace the human interaction or communication or contact, ultimately. We're always going to crave that on some level. And yes, and is just a way to create a positive environment for the human contact or human communication to be at its best, to be optimal.
So the yes and, the whole idea makes me think that it can help you become a more patient person, because if you do the default, I'm going to say yes and, even though I have no idea what's going to follow that. But the other person, it kind of breaks down your, like what you were saying earlier, no. And you don't even know why you're saying no. So I'll give you an example of that. My boyfriend always says, let's try a new restaurant, like Himalayan food restaurant just opened up. And my first response, nope, not doing it. He goes, you have to open your mind. Try it. Just try it once. So if I could do that with restaurants, I'm pretty yes and in most areas of my life anyway. That's a huge win right there. But it does, I think it almost could hurt my brain at first. So do you ever have people say, geez, this is really hard for me to give in to the yes and?
Well, of course, because of the decades-long programming that you've been subjected to, right? You know, my mom as a kid would, when I didn't want to try something, she'd say, well, just try it. How do you know you don't like it if you don't try it?
Right.
And I'd say, right, of course. Yeah, she was right then. She's right now.
And so are you. So, Frank Ford, thank you so much. I'm sorry we just came up on the break. I will send people to your website. I know. That was a wonderful interview. You're terrific. Thank you.
Oh, you were too. Thank you, Mary.
In the military, things can change in an instant. Your personal life is just the same. Just like you protect our country, you want your family protected. That's why thousands of military members trust Navy Mutual Life Insurance. Navy Mutual is nonprofit, providing current and former Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard families with life insurance, no sales fees, and no military service restrictions. Protecting members on active duty and beyond. Call 1-800-628-6011, 800-628-6011, NavyMutual.org, insuring those who serve.
One person has the power to change the world, impact millions of lives, and leave a legacy for lifetimes to come. That person is you. In the New York Times bestseller, What is Your What? Steve Olsher, award-winning author and founder of the Reinvention Workshop, reveals his proven process that has helped thousands of men and women discover, share, and monetize the one thing they were born to do. Grab your free copy now at www.whatisyourwhat.com/free. That's www.whatisyourwhat.com/free.
Take a break from politics. Tune in and learn something. WS Radio shows are worth your time and are filled with tips and advice. Add us to your lunch routine and we'll give you a meal for your mind.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
I've been bragging about Progressive Medical Center to you guys for years, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Agoli with us because, Dr. Agoli, a lot of people walk through your doors, and some of their biggest problems are they're just fatigued, they're tired all the time, and even though they're dieting and exercising, they cannot get the weight off. Why is that?
It's a combination of poor metabolism, inappropriate eating, but more importantly, it's due to a lack of education and really doing the right testing. A lot of our patients are metabolically compromised. What does that mean? Their metabolism is not functioning. The metabolism is responsible for all physical and chemical processes processes necessary to sustain life, and that includes energy. And without cellular energy, your body is not going to be a burning machine. Let's get back and teach our listeners to be a fat-burning machine.
It's been a lot easier to maintain my weight since Progressive Medical Center started treating me with all-natural supplements, learning proper nutrition, and that can be you today. No more frustrations about being tired or overweight. So why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today through progressivemedicalcenter.com.
This is your life, live it well.